So we're in full agreement on
Yeah.
Friday the
And
13th.
I know we are in this one too. Part 2.
Yep.
That's the other number 1 spot.
Ginny forever.
Ginny, the final girl in Part 2, is my favorite final girl of any horror movie. I love her character so much. She's just awesome. She's smart. She uses... Her character is very well developed, for one thing. And she uses some psychology on Jason. She's awesome.
This is the one where she finds like the shrine that he's made to his mother, and she
Yeah.
like puts on the sweater, right?
Now,
and like tries to like game him and convince him that like he's done a good job, right?
If everything works out, the listeners will have listened to that scene prior to this discussion, because that scene is my favorite scene probably from any horror movie of all time.
Yeah.
I love
So
that
good.
scene. And so I talked recently in an episode that I am a proud owner of a new little tiny fishing boat. And
nice.
I had been batting around names, and the name that has been settled on is Little Ginny.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. And I think Amy Steele is she's great. The girl who plays her. I could go on about Part 2 all day, too. Not just Ginny. I like the whole cast. I like this cast
It's
of characters. And I like the portrayal of Jason in this movie. It's a complete ripoff of The Town That Dreaded Sundown as far as his appearance. But I love the way this is well before we have zombie Jason and teleporting Jason and heavy breather Jason, and definitely pre-hockey mask, and it's a different thing than what it became. But I think this movie towers above the others. And I do think that between 1 and 2 is a better movie. But my love for 1 is equal to my love for 2.
2's definitely more polished. It feels like, oh, let's get some more money to put into this. Another thing I loved about Part 2 is one of the things that scared me the most about it is that classic wheelchair kill. Because when they killed off somebody in a wheelchair, that felt so threatening to me. Like, if even someone in a wheelchair is going to get killed, this killer is brutal. So that terrified me, and I loved Part 2. That VHS that I recorded so I could watch during the day, I watched it many days. So good. And pulling a Hitchcock at the beginning and killing off Alice.
Yeah.
You think
Oh, yeah.
this movie's going to be about Alice again, bringing her back.
Alice, the survivor from the first
And
movie.
then,
Yeah.
within 10 minutes, she's gone.
Yeah. I remember the first time seeing that, I was like, oh, interesting.
Yeah, that
and
set
then
a weird beat where you're like, I was not expecting that.
and this movie scared me. 1 and 2 both.
Yep.
Well, I think that gives the movie that much
When I
more
was
credit
young.
about the way that Ginny's character is developed too, because they immediately kill off a character that you already know, that's already developed, that you already like, and then they create another character like that they develop in a way where you go like, I'm still bought in, right? Like it doesn't
Yeah.
sour you to the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ginny's the best. I mean, maybe we need to do a final girl ranking one of these days. but- All right. Yeah, I could go on about 2 all day. Should we move on to 3?
Yep.
All right, Part 3D. Do you want to start this one? I've been...
Sure. So I ranked Part 3 as number 3 because Part 1 and 2 are splitting number 1, so I thought it was appropriate that Part 3 would be 3.
Yeah, my third spot is called 3.
Yep.
It's
Same.
not like 1, 1, 2. It's...
So I love 3 for a lot of reasons. I love the characters in 3. Shelley is probably one of my favorite characters ever, maybe because I identify with him so much, for better or for worse. It's where the iconic hockey mask comes from
Shelley.
Shelley.
I think this has my favorite kill in it too.
Is it the eyeball?
Well, I don't know. I'm just gonna ask because I can't remember specifically which one has a sleeping bag.
Oh, that's
no.
7.
Oh, I'm way off.
Slow down, Parker.
Sorry.
We'll get to 7.
That just that sleeping bag kill like cracks me up. Sorry.
Okay, we'll talk
I don't
about
know why I thought it was in 3.
3, I love the characters. I love some of the deaths, especially the eyeball. But I didn't fully appreciate it until I finally got the opportunity to see it in 3D. And once they released that on Blu-ray with 3D glasses that looked like hockey masks and stuff, the eyeball popping moment where Jason squeezes a guy's head until his eye shoots out, it's great. The spear flying it. Oh my gosh, I forgot her name.
They do the
girl
3D
that's supposed to
effects
be
in that
Shelley's
better
date.
than because the movies that would have come out at the same time that were like really trying to be 3D. Like, didn't they do a Jaws 3D that came out around the same
with
time?
That was awesome shark coming through the aquarium glass.
Yeah.
Yeah, Friday the 13th 3D effects were pretty good.
I haven't seen it in 3D.
Yeah.
Well, come over and watch it. Because now I have it in like the nice 3D. It's not the blue and red. It's the actual
nice.
Blu-ray 3D.
Cool.
It looks great.
Ren has like an eye phobia. I'm gonna bring up my wife a lot just because it's so fun, guys. It is the funnest thing seeing her react to those things. And an eyeball popping out of a dude's head, that would be her worst nightmare.
There's lots of eyeball stuff going on in this movie.
Oh yeah, because there's a part where
There's
the
the old-
Prophet of Doom
Yeah,
lifts it up and puts it in the screen.
Yeah, in the first 2 movies, there's a character called Crazy Ralph who is just lovable and crazy old Prophet of Doom. And they kill him off in the second one, so they kind of replace him with another crazy old guy. And he just holds this eyeball up right in your face to the camera. Gives you a nice 3D. And it's funny because you've mentioned, like, before seeing this in 3D, you're like, what the crap is the point of, like, this yo-yo scene and all these scenes where they just had to find things to do with the 3D, but...
And then you see it in 3D and you're like, oh, okay, we're essentially watching a show at Disneyland or Universal Studios.
Yeah. So, you brought up something that I wanted to talk about with 3, because 3 I had a hard time ranking between this and the next one. And 3 also lands in the number 3 spot for me.
Nice.
And the reason it wins out is because I believe, well, I don't know if it's the last, but in this first run of movies, 1, 2, and 3 have lovable characters.
Yep.
And you start to lose that. And I'd say the more trope, now is like hateable characters. Where they're like, we're going to establish like jerks like Phil Dunphy or, like...
People that you don't feel sad.
You can't wait to see him die.
Yeah.
And I think that's when Jason and Freddy and Michael and down the road Chucky, when they all got to be the reason people want to see these movies, they became the heroes essentially. They had to get unlikable main characters so that you want to see these people die.
Yeah.
And I think it's better when there's only maybe 1 or 2.
Same.
Like in 3, the gang, the motorcycle gang, it's
Yes.
satisfying when they get killed
That's right.
because they've been jerks to the main characters.
Yeah, but they're not part of that main group of...
Yeah.
They're not who you're following. They're kind of the second antagonist.
Yep.
You've got... Yeah. Right. I do like that. I like where you have the second antagonist, and now, like, you've kind of got a 3-way battle here because Jason's going to knock them all off.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and, 3 gets... I don't know. I see a lot of hate for 3, and I don't get it. I think 3 is... Man, 3 is a huge step down from 1 and 2, but watch the rest of them before you start bashing 3.
Yep.
Because, yeah, 3 is one that I think if you watched them all sequentially, you'd appreciate 3 a lot. And so that's why 3 went out for me. Anything more to say on 3?
No, it's great. Love it.
Okay. Same. Okay, part 4. Part 4 for me lands in the number 4 spot. It was the one that I had the internal battle. I've kind of gone back and forth. It's like, well, which of these movies do I actually like better? What ultimately went out for 3, I said. What 4 has, though, going for it, is the return of Tom Savini, the special effects guy.
Yeah.
And I think 4's got a great storyline. I love the when you get past a lot of the kind of earlier kills and a lot of the when you get more to like the final chase.
Is this the one with Corey Feldman?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
okay.
they also kind of stray a little bit rather than a typical final girl. You kind of have a final girl and her brother, and it's really more focused on her brother. Tommy.
Is he like 12 or 13?
I think he's supposed to be 12.
Around there? Okay.
Yeah.
Admittedly, I only remember 2 moments from part 4, and it's when he's shaving his head. And honestly, that was the most horrifying part of that movie to me. I used to shave my head bald, right? And just watching him hack away at his head like that, I was like, oh no!
There was a killer coming up the stairs, Parker.
I know, but even then...
He looks creepy. He looks creepy.
He
as
looks
his
very
little
creepy.
Jason looks
Those
like.
little wispy hairs that he missed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, so what changes with this movie for me is that I don't really like this cast of characters. You know, right from the get-go, I think it's not so much that like they're jerks, or they're kind of annoying.
Would you say that at this
Crispin
point...
Glover and his counterpart, they
I love Crispin Glover in this movie.
they're just not as endearing, and so that's where it leaves. However, Tommy and his sister are, and their mom, like but it's different.
And Sandra's brother that pops up.
Yeah, that's right. So you have a girl who was killed in part 2. This movie in the timeline takes place 2 days later, and her brother's off looking for her because she's been missing, even though she went to go work at this camp. Well, let's not get into timeline too much, I guess. But
Oh, no.
the Friday timeline is
Then
an absolute mess.
Crazy.
But it still isn't. I like the classic formula, the first 3. I like helpless young people at the lake, kind of away from the adults. And this movie changes it. So I love this movie, but that's why 3 gets the edge.
Would you say that this is... I feel like, with my just like more limited scope, but it feels like the thing that disconnects my enjoyment of like the movies from this point on, like, is that the thing I liked and resonated with like the first, second, and less so obviously in the third. But it seems like they specifically start to write characters that are just meant to kind of be throwaway. When in the first 2, like every character, regardless of how long they're or how they're gonna die, gets some type of development. Like, and I'll one that comes immediately to mind is memorable, more so now because it's fresh for me, is like in My Bloody Valentine, when the guy's like boiling the hot dogs, right? Like they're spending like 7 or 8 minutes of this movie acquainting you with this character, and you just kind of know he's gonna die, and there's really no intent to it, but they give him like personality. They show him interacting, right? Where he could have just been a party goer who gets like killed, right? He gets his head shoved in the water and boiled and stuff like that. And so like that's an element to that movie where I feel like every single one of those kids or even people in the town had something like that, even if it's just like 1 or 2 interactions. And it feels like at this point, like it starts to be less intentional of that and more of like, I don't know. You get what I'm saying? Like, it kind of touches where they're you start to dislike the characters, so you don't hate when they die.
This one definitely has some more throwaways, I'd say.
Where there's more characters that just exist, where you can just kind of peg them and go, that guy's gonna die.
They're starting to go that way anyway.
Yeah,
I think I could tell you the names of most of the characters from like 1.
Right.
I can name characters from 3 and 2, maybe not all, but I don't know that I can name very many characters. Like now, it's just becoming there's Final Girl and
When the exceptions, I think, in
and
the ones later from like Tommy, like later, right?
Yeah.
Like that's an exception there, but like to that point, that's where I start to feel like some disconnection in like that's where they all turn into 1, 2, and 1 and 2 especially seem signature, and I can differentiate them. The ones beyond that for me all kind of blur into like with the exception of Tommy, kind of a convoluted mess of like lightning strikes and you know, and it's just a lot.
Yeah, this one's very close to 3. To me, there's a steep drop off after this movie.
Yep.
Okay.
This one's more on par for 3.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
But it is why I give 3 the edge, because you're starting to get these departures. Any more thoughts on 4?
So I picked 4 as my number 4 as well.
Oh, we didn't get to... I'm sorry.
I really like it. I think it's still Friday the 13th to me. I think my biggest issue with it is that it felt like maybe people complained that there wasn't enough sex in 3, and so 4 feels a little extra horny compared to the first 3 movies. So I didn't love that. I don't care about that stuff. That's not why I go to see a scary movie. I go to be scared, not to be aroused, I guess. But I also did love Tommy. I loved, like the wheelchair thing in part 2. This is the first time an actual child is in danger in the Friday the 13th movies, and one of the only times. And so as watching this, I would have seen this when I was Tommy's age. And so it was extra scary for me. I love part 4. I think it's great, but same. I think the characters aren't as good. They're not as well developed. I could have lived with a movie purely focused on the Jarvis family. But granted, there's not enough bodies for that. But I love the stuff at the morgue at the beginning. The guy from Police Academy watching the aerobics video and stuff like that. That's fun.
I like that too.
But I know they need bodies to kill. And so there had to be teenagers. But I did love Crispin Glover. I think he's the only one. I don't think I cared for any of the other kids, teenagers, whatever you'd call them, in this movie. Because they're just not well developed and
there's
didn't
not
have
much
great
to
personalities, and they weren't given a lot to do to act, but they didn't do a lot with what they were given.
Yeah.
So that's my thoughts on 4.
All right. Well, if you thought 4 was
extra horny,
horny,
surprise!
Let's talk about part 5.
Softcore porn.
So part 5, its most controversial aspect is this is not a Jason movie. There's a Jason mask killing people. You find out at the end of the movie it was the paramedic all along.
Roy.
And so
okay,
that's
Roy is okay. Isn't Roy okay? Light bulb. I'm thinking 5. Roy is the paramedic, and he's the dad of the guy who gets.
Yeah, there's a kid murdered by another. There's a house for troubled kids,
which is where
his son is
Tommy
murdered.
goes.
Yeah,
Tommy goes because he's like still he's like super
Tommy.
messed up from what happens in
Corey
4.
Feldman was doing Goonies, so he couldn't do this. So they fast forwarded.
Right.
But they did get him. They were able to film that opening bit where he's having a flashback. That was cool.
That is cool.
Okay, so now, I remember now.
It's
a Jason impersonator, right?
So over the years, the first time I saw them, I'd seen like the first, I'd seen the first 3 many times, and then I finally was like, I need to see the rest of these. So I then watched them like all in order over the course of like a summer. And so initially 5 was the very bottom. If like after that first run of them, I was done. I was like, 5 is garbage. It was a terrible movie. I hated it. Now over the years, I've seen them all several times. These movies are like the most rewatchable movies, and 5 doesn't quite sink to the bottom anymore because there are others that I find harder to watch. So 5's annoying.
But it's not your 5th. Well, what is your 5th?
The part where
we'll cover that later.
The part where it's
I see it.
not Jason really. It's like I've kind of gotten past that. It's like, okay, so this movie's what it is. But yeah, for me, it surprisingly, very surprisingly lands at number 8 for me, because when it comes down to it, the more you see these movies, like in the end, I'm like, 5 still has some stuff I like. I like the kid Reggie. I like his brother Demon, and I think Demon's death scene is hilarious.
Enchiladas.
And, yeah, it's fun. He dies in an outhouse, poor fella. And like, there's a lot of stuff like that. I think the final chase is pretty good. The movie gets better as it goes. It starts out really rough. Like, it's just, you're like, oh, this is so bad. But it in the end, it has some stuff that makes me laugh. It actually has some characters I still like, and so it lands at number 8 for me. Much higher than it used to be. Out
Nice.
of 12, it used to occupy the 12th spot, but it's gone up.
So I'm different than you in that I ended up eventually recording all of these movies off cable when I was like between the ages of like 11 and 13 or 14. And so I saw them all multiple times when I was like the target age for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved 5 because it wasn't Jason. I thought that was so great and such a twist that all of a sudden it is a whodunit again. And they have all the misdirects to make you think, did Tommy really go crazy at the end of 4? Is he the one killing everyone? And they were pretty good about making sure when a murder was going on, Tommy was unaccounted for.
Mm-hmm.
And they did a really good job with that.
Right up till the end. I bought into it. I was like, please don't be Tommy. You know?
Yep.
They had me.
Rewatching it, they did not do such a great job of establishing Roy as a character. They just have all these horrible shots where you see him reacting to deaths and things, and you go, is this like a random soap opera character that stepped in here? So that was not maybe the best way handled. That was good English.
I know what you mean.
But
They have to explain it at the end of the movie.
yeah,
Because you're like, who's that when it shows his face? You're like, I was like, huh? And then there's a scene of the sheriff. So here's what happened. It's purely for the audience.
same criticism of 4. It really is softcore pornography. This movie has so many scenes that make me go, oh, I don't want to see that. So I don't like that aspect. But overall, this is one that over the years, whenever we do our rankings, which we do probably about once a year, this one moves back and forth between a lower spot and higher. And right now it's sitting pretty high. I've got it at number 7 out of 12.
Wow.
Yeah. And I literally just rewatched this last week.
Okay.
And it's not as bad as
Yeah.
I always think it is.
There's a lot of things you can get over.
Yeah.
I gotta say, if I had seen this as like a 14-year-old, it might have been it might have been the one for me.
Showtime.
Showtime. There's that's enough about 5. Yeah.
Yeah, let's bury it.
All right. 6. Do you want to start with 6?
Sure. 6 is one of my favorites. I've got it ranked as number 5. So right beneath those first 4 movies is for me. I loved 6. They found a way to bring Jason back that's a little corny.
Is this the one where they dig up his grave and they drive
This
that?
is your
They
lightning bolt.
Frankenstein.
They drive
him.
that thing through him, and then conveniently lightning strikes and like
Yep.
zaps
He was
him away.
going for like a Frankenstein, like gothic
Okay.
horror.
Yeah, like classic Universal monster movies.
Yeah.
And it worked for me. I liked the humor in this one, but I feel they went a little too far in the direction of humor. And there's moments like the paintball people when they get killed. The one guy gets slammed into the tree and it leaves a smiley face behind. That's a little much for me. Some of the other humor in it just goes a little bit too much.
Like that level of
credit card in the
coincidental
water.
humor is like really on the nose in that one. I do remember that, the smiley face thing where you kind of go like, okay.
And then the one
It's
part
kind of like
where
them saying like, look how funny this is. Yeah.
it's wink wink nudge nudge a little bit too much for me.
It's like hard elbow. Like,
And it also, I loved it as a teenager that this is the first time we get unstoppable monster Jason. And I'm still okay with it at this point. It hasn't gone too far, but I do feel that it ends up hurting the series as a whole, that they go that direction. So I really like 6. I loved the character of Tommy in 6. I like the girl. I can never remember her name. The actress's name is Jennifer Cook. I don't know how I remember that, but I can never remember the character's
her
name.
name Megan.
Megan, thank you. And her dad, the sheriff that overacts the heck out of this movie. And his deputy, C also. My goodness. They the adults in this one really are not great actors, are they? But there's a lot of great stuff in 6. There's some really fun kills in it. There's the one where he rips the girl's head off. There's the RV kills. There's some good stuff in 6. And so it's enough to keep it pretty high for me. So it's my number 5.
I love
and Alice Cooper.
Oh yeah, I love 6. You get Alice Cooper doing the theme song. After 5 being, we kind of like appreciate aspects of it now, but overall, I mean, you see 5 and it's pretty wretched. Like 6 is a nice. Okay, let's bring it back. I'm with you on that. I think it goes a little too far. It kind of suffers from the Scream thing. I think Scream is a brilliant movie, but Scream started a trend that's annoying, and that's the self-aware horror movies that are poking fun at themselves. This one kind of does that too, and I like this movie, but it puts some things in motion that I don't like with Unstoppable Jason, and what 6 suffers from for me is just some of the corniness is too much. I hate the paintball stuff. And they added that in just to add more kills because there wasn't enough kills. And I like the main storyline of 6, but I hate how hokey all the extra stuff is. But I like Tommy's portrayal in this a lot. It's a fun movie. It gets number 6 for me. And between my number 5 and my number 6, they were close. But what edges it out is like, I love it, but there's a lot in this movie that just, I get a little bored watching it. And that's the issue. And I get bored particularly during like the paintball stuff. And, I'm trying to remember what else. But there's some stuff there's some stuff in it I absolutely love too. I love the RV kills. I love I think you do have some likable characters in this one again.
They're more developed than they've been for the last couple movies, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, like Tommy's fun. His spunky counterpart, she's fun. It's got fun characters. And you have the kids.
I forgot to mention that.
This is the first one that actually has kids at the camp. Yeah. So, yeah, 6 is great.
And he like, a bunch of these kids, if I remember right, they see him and he doesn't mess with them because they're kids, and he really only sticks to killing like the.
It makes you wonder. You're like,
right?
Are they gonna kill kids?
I remember a couple times where like the kids see him and he just goes about his business, basically, right?
I'm trying to remember how that plays out. I know the kids are okay. He doesn't kill the kids, but I can't remember exactly how that plays out. It's been a while since I've watched 6.
I watched it like 2 weeks ago. And he comes into the room at one point.
It's like a whole bunch of kids, right?
Yeah, and doesn't actually do anything, but does leave behind a machete at one point. And like the girl finds it and takes it to the counselor, the one with the red hair. So 6 is another one that I set my VCR to record. And the first time my sister and I watched it, we were watching it in my bedroom. I would have been probably 12, 13. And my dad was watering some plants outside my window, and it was nighttime. And my dad was bald, still is. And we were watching this movie, and all of a sudden we see a bald head go across the top of my entertainment center that was in front of my window. Scared me to death. It was just my dad watering plants. But I will always have that fond memory of watching part 6 for the first time.
That's great. Okay. So we love 6. And then there's 7. All right.
The only thing I can even remember from 7 is the sleeping bag.
That sleeping bag is a good kill.
That just, for whatever reason, has always stuck in my head as absurd and hilarious and just wild. And
so, quick little introduction. Maybe I wish I had been doing this all along. Just a quick little summary of the movie. But the gist of 7 is they wanted to do Freddy versus Jason clear back then. That was really hard to make happen. They ended up kind of doing a version of Carrie versus Jason. But this character they come up with, her name's Tina.
Is
She's
this
like
the one
a
where Jason's like possessing people's bodies?
no.
No.
I didn't think so.
This
I
is
can't
this
remember.
is the girl. She's like a telekinetic.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I almost don't even think this as a Jason movie.
All right.
Okay.
Well, yeah, but it's where you're sleeping back. So, I think this movie is a hot mess. It's not. It's not good. I don't really care for it. It's the first time I saw it. It was down there with 5. They were like the absolute bottom for me. I've rewatched it. I can find things I like about it now. It has moments. We're gonna talk about Kane Hodder. Kane Hodder plays Jason in part 7 and then goes on to play him in part 8, 9, and 10. And Kane Hodder's widely beloved
Well,
by-
he is the best Jason.
by
Just
Friday
ask
the
Kane Hodder.
13th fans. Exactly. And I'll say this about Kane Hodder. He loves being Jason. He's proud to have been part of the movie, and I think that's cool. But Kane Hodder was not in a good Jason movie. And I hate the way he plays Jason. Hate it. And I know Jeremy and we've already talked about this many times. But people love him. And Kane Hodder is who introduced the heavy-breathing Jason. He puts way too much into him. And he's not the right build for Jason. His stature doesn't fit the character that we've known this whole time.
Yep.
So you have that. And then the movie does have some good kills. And it, the director claims it really got destroyed by the censorships. But if you had like the most gory, coolest, uncensored kills, it's still not a good movie.
Doesn't make up for poor screenplay.
Yeah.
And poor direction.
So I don't really have much good to say about it.
I think the biggest problem with 7, other than, well, there's so many problems.
It gets the number 10 spot for me.
Really?
Yeah.
I think the characters in 7 might be the most unlikable from any of the Friday the 13th movies. They're just not developed. It's bodies. It's bodies to be there to kill. And I don't like that. It loses all the charm and the fun when it's just, let's find a reason to cheer for the bad guy. So I agree with you on everything else. I ranked it as number 8.
Oh, wow.
It's surprisingly high for me because I looked at what's below it, and I think the series still has a long way to plunge.
Yeah. That's the thing.
But this
And yet we
was
talk
the
about
beginning
this.
of the true end.
We
for
talk
me.
about this being the greatest horror franchise, and I still believe that. And I will say these movies, they fall within this containment of, I'm comparing them against themselves, against their counterparts. So, like, I would rather watch Friday the 13th Part 7 than, say, like, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 6, right? Like,
Or Halloween 5.
yeah.
Or,
I'm calling it garbage in the world of Friday the 13th, but yet I still like this movie, if that makes any sense. You get the sleeping bag kill. You still get Jason. I mean, Jason's just fun, man. This movie also has way too much maskless Jason,
yes.
and it looks dumb.
Yeah.
But again, gets worse.
I guess.
It does get way worse.
Yep. All right. Should we go on?
Yeah, let's move on.
So I forgot I was going to be writing yours down. Oh well.
I've got a list that we can review.
We're on now number 8.
Number 8.
Jason Takes Manhattan. Or does he? All right, number 8. Who went? I went first, so you go ahead.
I like the main characters in 8, which is better than Part 7 for me. That's not enough for me to love Part 8, though.
This is the other guitar movie?
This is
Real
the other
quick?
guitar one that
Okay.
I remember, the
Yeah.
guitar girl. And
Flying V girl, yeah.
I remember being a kid and seeing trailers for this, or teasers or whatever, and I thought the premise was going to be so cool. And when I finally saw the movie, I just went, meh. The opening on the houseboat, I think, is pretty good. Pretty scary. It scared me quite a bit the first time I actually saw the movie. But from there, it just went downhill. They play around with retconning things, I guess, when they show Jason as a child again in the water, things are different. I hate the look of Jason in this movie. Kane Hodder. This is the movie where I went, oh, Kane Hodder. Oh, Kane Hodder. Just too much. Took it too far. There are some decent kills in this movie. I do like the moment where he's walking through Times Square. That's fun. But overall,
Is that where the guys come up and try to mug him and he just like lifts up his mask and then they turn around and run?
Yeah, they get scared and run away. But again, I think the series still gets worse, so I've got it at number 9.
Okay, I think this was a great idea and wretched execution. I love the idea of Jason Takes Manhattan. So they suffered from budget problems. They weren't able to be in New York hardly at all. So it would be more appropriately named Jason Takes a Cruise Ship. I hate how they. So I love the idea of Jason going to Manhattan. I think that he sails there on a ship from Crystal Lake is idiotic. Why couldn't he just hop on like a truck or something? You know, like that would have been fine. He could have hopped on they could have found some way to transport him that made sense. And then I like the shot in Times Square. I always think this movie's better than it was. Like when I first was looking back over, like this one has gone down over the years for me.
I remember being shocked at how high you had it the first time we ranked these.
Yeah, for a long time, my memory of it was what I thought it should have been and not what it actually was. I like the final girl. I like some of the characters. I hate the stupid subplots of like the creepy uncle and the captain of the ship and his son, like, and their little weird drama. The son doesn't want to take the reins of being a sea captain. I'm like, what is this movie? The biggest thing it suffers from for me is that it's freaking boring. I find this movie boring, and it is the one movie that I really can't get through again. I don't have it ranked last, yet I think I could watch the last place one easier than I could watch this one, because this one is just so boring. This one is number 11 for me.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. Bringing us to number 9, Jason Goes to Hell. Boy, I wanted to see this movie.
Me too.
Jason Goes to Hell gets my number 12 ranking.
Really?
Yep, I think this is the worst movie. And as bad as I just went off on 8, Jason Goes to Hell is so off the rails that it's almost more watchable than 8, because it's awful, but it moves, whereas 8 just doesn't move.
This is your body swapping one, Parker.
Yeah.
This is the body swapping one. So now
That's
we have
the only thing I remember
Jason's
about it, and
soul or essence or whatever moves from body to body.
I'm with you. It's just a hot garbage. I can't remember a single thing other than the premise of it.
So the original creator of Friday the 13th came back for this one, and the way I see it is he didn't want anything to do with Friday the 13th, but it's a cash cow. So he's like, all right, I want back in. But he says, allegedly he said, but get rid of that damn hockey mask. And I think that is just the most arrogant decision, because this whole thing is built on that hockey mask, and it's the beloved, iconic symbol of this franchise. And the guy who did the Mrs. Voorhees movie, which my favorite movie, hates it. I don't like movies being made by people that hate them. And so it just destroys. So it's such a hot mess. It goes into weird mythology. Let's try to give Jason more origin story. Awful characters, awful setting. Has some fun moments, and is so off the rails that it's almost watchable for me. Like, I think I'd probably rather watch it than Jason Takes Manhattan, because this one is like watching a train wreck, and Jason Takes Manhattan is like watching paint dry. So, but yeah, this to me is the worst movie. What are your thoughts?
I don't hate it as much as you. I put it as my number 10.
Okay.
I think it's probably one of the worst directed of the series. A lot of the acting is really, really bad. But then you have things like Creighton Duke, Stephen Williams, I think is the actor's name, just having the time of his life, turning that character into something fun. It's got some fun, gross death scenes. I liked that they brought it back to Camp Crystal Lake for a hot second at the beginning. Overall, my biggest issue with it, it's not a Friday the 13th movie. It just does not feel like a Friday the 13th movie. That's my biggest complaint against it. But I would pick 8 over that one purely because 8 is still at least a Friday the 13th movie. Mm-hmm. But I would
Agreed.
not. I would much rather still watch Jason Goes to Hell than my number 11 or 12. So.
Well,
Also,
I'm pretty sure I know what those are, but
also, as a kid who loved Silver Spoons, I had the most massive crush on Erin Gray. And I had not seen her since Silver Spoons. So to have her suddenly pop up as Jason's long-lost sister, that was fun. I love some Erin Gray.
yeah, that's all right. I don't think we need to talk anymore about this one.
Nope.
All right. That brings us to number 10, Jason X. I'll let you start this one.
This was the first one I saw in a theater. And I had a blast. It was so fun. I went and saw it opening day with a bunch of theater friends, which I think is the perfect crowd to go see Jason X with. And I remember, too, that we were really excited because the trailer for Halloween Resurrection was released with Jason X. Oh, gosh. I had so much fun seeing it in the theater, and it was such a great experience that it clouded my perception of Jason X. So when I watched it again when it came out on DVD, I was horrified. If you had told me it was a sci-fi original movie at the time, I would have believed it. The production values are so terrible. The look of everything is terrible. The acting is wretched. The writing is bad. Everything about this movie is bad to me. It's just bad, bad, bad. Uber Jason, that was like, oh, laws. Can we even make Kane Hodder more unbearable? Yeah, let's make him half robot. I rank this as number 11. I hated it. I hate it.
Okay. There's not much I can argue with on this to what you just said. It's awful. The first time I went through them all, I probably had it ranked a little too high. Then the next time I saw it, it went straight to the bottom. It's bounced back up for me a little bit. It takes a certain mood, but I kind of watch it with the eye of someone watching a sci-fi movie in the early 2000s. Doesn't feel like a Friday the 13th movie.
Mm-mm.
It's all those things you said, terribly acted. So what I'll tell you, there's things about it I like, though. For what it is, I can enjoy the setting. Like, I think it's silly, but I'm like, we're so off the rails after Jason Goes to Hell. It's like, what's next? Oh, space. Okay, but it's a fun space movie is kind of how I look at it. I think it has some fun kills. So that helps. The characters are developed. I wouldn't say they're likable or they're not acted well, but they're established. I think Uber Jason is so stupid.
Oh.
I hate the robotic android counterpart to him. This movie has one of the funniest scenes of any Jason movie, though, to me.
I will give it that.
There's a moment in this movie where they have this simulation. This takes place way in the future. They're in space. There's a simulation room or something. So Jason goes into the simulation, and they turn it so Jason thinks he's at Camp Crystal Lake. And you have these two girls, and they're like, hey, let's smoke pot and have premarital sex. And that gets Jason, and he's trying to kill him, but they're like computer animated, and it's freaking hilarious, man. I just thought that part was so funny. And I watched that movie just to get to that part. Like, I think it's better than Jason Goes to Hell. I'm not saying it's good. And it takes a certain mood. But I can really enjoy Jason X in the right mood. I don't think I can enjoy Jason Goes to Hell.
Huh.
And I have Jason X at number 9.
Wow.
So, and we've talked about all the... So, underneath it, I'd rather watch Jason X than Part 7. The Tina one. Telekinetic. I'd rather watch it than Manhattan, just because I can't get through Manhattan. And I'd rather watch it than Jason Goes to Hell. So it surprisingly makes it to number 9 for me.
Wow.
But this is the bottom of the barrel. This is a long ways from Part 2.
Yep.
How many is that?
We've got 2 more.
2 more.
That was 10.
Sorry, guys, I really have to go.
Oh, that's okay.
I gotta be somewhere at 5:30.
Thanks for
Go.
joining us.
I'm
Parker.
sorry.
Oh, I knew you were going to duck out before
Okay.
we were done.
All right, we'll just keep it rolling then.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, guys.
We can talk about Parker now.
Yeah.
They deserve it.
So we just lost Parker.
Yep. All right. Part 11. Freddy versus Jason. I love this movie.
Me too.
It goes in number 5 for me. It barely... It goes above 6 because... I think that if I was putting these movies in like tiers, there's the 1 and 2 tier.
Yep.
There's the 3 and 4 tier. And then there's the FVJ and 6 tier. They're pretty close. I give this one the edge because most of the time I'd rather watch this one. I think it's good. It's not perfect. It's got its flaws. But I think overall they did a pretty good job at making it a good movie for Jason fans and a good movie for Nightmare fans. I like the characters. They're not like as lovable as other characters, but I like them. And I don't like the water thing, where they make Jason afraid of the water. I think that gets kind of cheesy.
Well, and it goes against what, like
Right.
10 other movies at this point?
That whole little issue too. Yeah. So, but casting that aside, I actually think this movie is really, really fun, and it really is about. I mean, it kind of feels like a Jason movie at times, and it kind of feels like a Freddy movie at times, and it kind of walks the line between. I love the cornfield scene. Yeah, I think it's a really fun movie, and when you watch all these movies multiple times, some are like get more rewatchable than others. This one's definitely rewatchable for me. I like it. So.
Yeah, I don't have much to disagree on this one. I don't agree that it feels like Friday the 13th at points. I think it doesn't really feel like Friday the 13th ever to me at all. But it's closer to a Friday the 13th for sure than Jason Goes to Hell or Jason X. And I did appreciate that coming off of those two. It felt like it was a little bit of a return to form. The water and fire thing was ridiculous to me because we've seen both of these characters in water, and we've seen we've seen Jason in water and we've seen Freddy in fire, and they haven't had problems with that.
Oh, that's right. Freddy's got an issue with fire, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So I didn't like that aspect. I think some of the acting's a little corny, but overall I did like the characters. I think it's got some great kills, and I had read some of the other scripts that they had come up with for Freddy versus Jason, trying to get it made, and I was so thrilled with this that it could have been so much worse. Overall, my biggest complaint with it would be it feels like a time capsule of the early 2000s. It does not feel as timeless, even though all the other ones, well, most of the other ones are in the 80s, and they're very 80s looking. They feel more timeless to me, and this one does not feel as timeless. But overall, I really like it. So I ranked it at number 6.
So our 5 and 6 are just split
Backwards, yeah. And it was back and forth for me, but overall I decided I do like 6 more than Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah, it's fair. On some days I might too. A lot of that's like a mood thing.
Yeah.
Now, I know this is the one we disagree most about. The last one, number 12, is not really number 12. It is a reboot. And you know what? Go ahead and just... Who went first last? Did I? I did. So, yeah. I'll just let you open fire on this movie.
I hate it. I hate everything about it. There's not one redeeming quality to the reboot. Everything about it is crap, crap, crap. I saw it for the first time, and I turned it off halfway through. I couldn't do it. And then years later, I decided maybe I was unfair, and I tried it again, and I was not enjoying it, but I made myself stick it out to the end, and I regretted it. I do not consider it a Friday the 13th movie. I will never attempt to watch it again. I did not like any of the characters. I hated what they did with the mythology. I hated everything about it. It is my number 12 out of 12. If I could put 10 other movies in above it, I would.
What they do with the mythology that you don't like?
I guess it's not the mythology. The backstory. Like they crammed 4 movies into one. 4 of the original movies into one. That's the mythology was the wrong word.
I get you.
But I hated it. I just hated it. And then completely changing the character of Jason, I did not like. I do like the actor that played Jason. If I could take him, Derek Mears, is that his name?
Derek Mears, yeah.
If I could take him and replace Kane Hodder in all of Kane Hodder's
for
movies,
sure.
I think that would elevate the quality of the other movies, but he was not enough to save this movie for me.
Okay. I mean, it's not my favorite. But I completely disagree with you on that there's nothing likable about it. How do you feel that Jason's changed in this one? Because I didn't know you felt that way.
They make him an animal.
An animal?
Yeah, he sets traps.
It's a part 2-ish Jason to me.
It is, but it's like part 2 on crack.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot of things on crack, for sure.
Yeah.
So, okay. This movie, as Jeremy said, it squishes the first 4 movies into one. They obviously weren't going to do a reboot and not do Jason, so they kind of run through a Mrs. Voorhees thing at the beginning. I liked the mix-up of the first 3 movies. I thought that was kind of a fun way to do it. I like a lot of the kills. I think are really good. I love the Jason. I like him more than Kane Hodder and the guy in Freddy vs. Jason. I like him more than Part 6 Jason. I still really like the Jason from Part 2 a lot. But I like... Derek Mears is tall. He's very imposing. So that aspect of it I like. I like that they placed it at the lake. And there were some funny moments that I enjoyed. I thought they did a pretty good mix of humor and violence. I did see this one in the theater, and it was kind of like you and Jason X. I had a blast watching this in the theater. My wife was home with her baby. I went out with my friends, and it was hysterical, and it was really fun. I left thinking it was way better than it was. My opinion of it's really gone down since then, but I still don't have it as low as you. Yeah. What I hate about the movie are the unlikable characters. They try so hard to make you hate the character Trent that it actually kind of makes the movie anytime he's on screen, it's not like, oh, he's such a jerk, it's fun, can't wait till he gets killed. It's like, I don't want to watch this guy. But I like there's a girl, the girl who really isn't the final girl, but is the survivor, I think. That's the guy's sister. So they take the plot from 4, where he's looking for a bit. In this movie, she was kind of the Jenny character in that she fools Jason into him thinking she's his mom, at least enough he's confused, he keeps her alive. I liked her. And what is there to say about it? It's not great. I don't want to make it sound... I feel really defensive of it when Jeremy talks about it, but honestly, it's not a great movie. But for me, it lands solidly in the middle. It's at number 7. Because I would say I'd rather watch it than Part 5, Jason X, Part 7, Part 8, Jason Goes to Hell. I think I'd rather watch the reboot. But the reboot is the cutoff point for me. There's like that third tier that's Freddy vs. Jason in Part 6. It's a huge drop off from there to the reboot. And so, like, I rewatched the first 6 on my list quite a bit. More often the first, like, 4 I watch a lot. I don't watch I've seen the reboot maybe 3 times. So it's not like I watch all these movies over and over again, but that's where it changes for me.
So this is the only one that you've seen more than me.
Yeah.
With good reason.
So, real quick, now we can maybe talk about this going forward. Because I tell you, if they were going to start making movies again, I wouldn't want them to build off the reboot.
No.
We've talked about a few ideas. If I could have them do anything, I would want Amy Steele to come back and they do like a Halloween where they kill every sequel after 2 and pick it up with Ginny 40 years later. I would like to see them do that with Tommy and Corey Feldman. I'm okay. As much as I love 6, I don't care if they get rid of 5 and 6 and start over with Tommy. And I also wouldn't mind if they just started making like standalone Crystal Lake movies with Jason too. I would hope they're better than the reboot. I like the reboot, but I would hope they're better. But overall, I find Ginny so adorable. She's the best. I'd love to see her come back. But you floated a fun idea earlier that I hadn't really thought of before. But what would you do if you could do anything? If you could take control of this franchise, what would you do?
Well, I would not erase as much as you. I wouldn't go all the way back to 2. I would go back to 4. So I would erase starting at 5 for sure, because especially the ones once it switched hands to New Line, which would be Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X, and
those have got to go.
Yeah, they got to go. But I would take it back after 4, even though I love 6 and I love what Tommy did in 6. It's like I loved Halloween 2, I loved Halloween H2O, but I'm okay with what they did with Halloween 2018 with Laurie Strode. Mm-hmm. So I would go back to after the end of Part 4, but I wouldn't want to just resume Tommy's story. I would want to find out what happened to Tommy, and I would want to find out what happened to Ginny. And because it's in between, I would want to find out what happened to Chris from Part 3.
Well, that's a fun idea.
Yeah, like bring them all back together.
So Alice is dead.
Yep.
But you have Ginny, Tommy, and
Chris
from Part 3.
And then we don't know for sure if Trish survived at the end of Part 4,
Tommy's
if that
sister.
was a dream or not. So she could possibly be in the mix too.
I love that. I would be on board for that.
So I would like to see something where it brings them back and maybe they unite to defeat Jason again or something. But
yeah, I think that would be great.
Kind of the way Halloween Kills, spoiler, it's not really though because it's in trailers and things, brings back pretty much every surviving character from the first movie.
Wow, I couldn't believe some of the people they got back.
Yeah. And I think that would be fun if all these people that had survived Jason. But I'd be on board with that too if it went further. I mean, I don't really want to see Tina again. But if they went and considered all the originals canon still and brought them all back, that would still be fun for me.
I'd be okay with that too. I wouldn't. I mean, there's nothing left. Jason X takes place way in the future, so it really doesn't matter if they canonize it or not. But I would like to get rid of the Jason Goes to Hell stuff, and then if you included everything up to 8, it's like you just kind of have to ignore the timeline issues. But I don't really care about that, honestly. But I mean, Friday the 13th was built out of them copycatting Halloween. I wouldn't care if they did it again and said, these new Halloween sequels, are pretty cool, and maybe we should do that. I'd be like, yeah, do it.
I would be completely on board. And I'm sure that those thoughts have been going through people's heads, but we've got a giant Victor Miller-sized obstacle in the way. Although last I heard, he won the lawsuit.
Yeah, so the reason there's been no Friday the 13th movie since 2009 is because the rights are contested between original people involved. So, but I just barely recently watched, and you've seen it, but that Crystal Lake documentary where they go through each movie, and they all these final girls said they'd love to come back.
Let's take them up on it.
Yeah, so bring them back, especially Amy Steele. But Chris said she would.
I love Chris.
Chris, the girl from 3. Can't think of her name. But a lot of these people have they're not really actors anymore.
Dana
right?
Kimmel. Dana Kimmel,
yeah. Is she still? I mean, I don't think she's really an actress anymore. Is she? I know Amy Steele isn't.
I don't think so.
But I don't care. Bring them back.
Yeah, I mean, they brought Kyle Richards back for Halloween Kills, and she certainly was not acting anymore. Although I guess maybe the Real Housewives shows are pretty fictional, right?
That's Lindsay.
Yeah.
But maybe next year we can do this with Halloween.
Let's do it.
And yeah, having said all that, the Fridays, they're all fun in some way. Okay, well, that's that.
Hey.